Kept you guys waiting, shaking at the edges of your seats for many months that have passed, but we're finally back with another top 5 list in the top 5 list series saga. And today we're going to be going over the top 5 biggest reworks of many towers. Basically going over towers as reworks that are completely different or slightly different from the original versions.
Number 18.
Being accurate with their shots in the number 5 spot we have is the Archer. Now, as you guys know, the Archer before his immense rework was literally one of the worst towers in the game. Not dog shit level, but definitely somewhere close to that tier level. But then this man got an immensely huge rework, and I mean huge rework. Visually rework as in his entire design, and of course his mechanics and stats in total. This man at first few levels doesn't really do a whole lot of damage, starting off with a basic 4 damage, then at level 2 more additional damage, and honestly is a pretty okay-ish start. But then at level 3 this man unlocks flaming arrows, and of course these flaming arrows aren't necessarily anything mind-blowing, but definitely do a little tiny bit itty-mish more damage. And that doesn't include this man's penetration damage for, you know, attacking and damaging many enemies with a single arrow shot. And then finally, level 4, he unlocks the shock arrows, which of course stun enemy zombies that walk on the path, and of course can really give a lot of time for your troops to just blast at these enemies for as long as possible. And then finally, at level 5, he unlocks the explosive arrows, which deal a ton more damage, with each shot dealing at around 48 hit points of damage. And that's just for one archer. You can place up to 15 of these bad boys, each of them being shock archers or perhaps being the explosive archers, and you could just deal tons and tons of damage to many enemies at the same time, stunning them, explosive damage, and even hell, firing damage on them. The Archer is now known as one of an okay-ish tower in this game, but definitely nowhere near the F tier spot, and honestly a pretty good rework in the end.
Number 4.
Swagging their way into number 4 spot we have is the Crook Boss. So as you guys know, this man is literally one of the best towers in the entire game for both the early game, mid game, and then finally the late game. And this man, back before his big rework, he was mainly an okay-ish tower, especially being really good in the early game because it literally costed the exact same amount to place down at the beginning, 600 bucks, and honestly was a very good early game tower. But then, this man got his big rework, and he's literally just an upgraded version of himself. Now, you can tell some similarities between his original version and now his upgraded version, but god damn, this man is insanely much more powerful. He does incredibly much more damage with his revolver at the beginning, and then at level 2 he gets hidden detection and does 10 more damage on top of his damage, and then finally he gets a literal Tommy gun at level 3 SMG that deals a pretty good amount of damage overall. And then finally you have his max level, a good old-fashioned golden Tommy gun with an incredibly much more faster rate of fire and high damage per amount of seconds. And this man just obliterates every single enemy. And not only that, but of course he has his minions, his goons that come around the path and start blasting at any enemies trying to get near their boss. And once he gets to level 3, all of these minions get as well SMGs, or at least a few of them as well. And then finally level 5, the Crook Boss's max level, these motherfuckers get a Tommy gun just like himself, and they will just completely destroy any enemies on the path themselves. Honestly, an amazing rework for a golden tower in the golden Omega team.
Number 7.
Honestly, still my favorite. Number 3 spot we have is the DJ. Now, all of you guys know, I like to glaze this man all the time, literally every single time I get to be able to talk about the DJ, because I just love this man to death at this point. Now, back before this rework, he was honestly still a pretty good and reliable tower. Not amazingly to where everyone needed him in every single game mode, but for now, yes. But back then, this man only applied the range and 20% discounts at max level, But then, this man got an insane rework to where literally everything was essentially upgraded. At level 1 and level 2, level 3, nothing really changes much. However, at level 3, this is when things start to get a little bit juicy, because at level 3, this man unlocks his actual activation ability, which allows him to provide a small, pretty reliable ability for each of the 3 music tracks. The range track slows down all nearby enemies and pushes them back. The money track, aka the green one, allows him to essentially give a few tons of thousands of bucks and hand it over to the player. And then finally the red track, the damage track, where this man essentially ear rapes any enemies nearby and deletes their entire defense armor. And honestly, all of these tracks are really fucking good, all individually on minimum, especially the discount track, literally no argument there. But the most amazing part is of course his max level, where each of these 3 tracks are all applied to every tower in a huge as hell range. And of course, whichever track you pick will also boost the passive benefits. The purple track, more range. The red track increases more damage to 20%. And then finally, the green track decreases the discounts to an enormous amount. Honestly, just an amazing rework for a tower already in the spotlight.
Number 14.
Flying the way into the number 2 spot we have is the Pursuit. As you guys know, the Pursuit back then was honestly still a very reliable tower, especially for trying to beat hardcore. As you guys know, this man flies around, deals a decent amount of damage. However, matching him with a good old-fashioned commander will literally allow him to just obliterate any enemy. But then TDS decided, you know what, we needed to give this man a little bit of snippets of steroids, and that's what they exactly did. They ripped him apart and gave him a brand new body. For the first few levels, this man is quite honestly pretty okay-ish. However, at level 3, this is when things start to get very juicy and exciting. At level 3, this unlocks 2 different upgrade paths. One, the top one, focuses on heavy DPS damage, however for one enemy at a time, and then the bottom upgrade path essentially focuses on AoE damage to multiple enemies. And you're probably wondering which one is the best one, and it's a no-brainer, obviously the top one. Not only is it just 10 times more stronger, but sadly is 10 times more expensive as well. The Pursuit at max level for either the bottom or top upgrade path is literally amazing. The top upgrade path literally obliterates every enemy, especially when they also have hidden detection with added in missiles and a giant Gatling gun, especially when he also has an ability to move around the map as well in a ginormous radius. The bottom path is also very strong, with able to deal a ton of AoE damage to many enemies at the same time. Not as good as the top upgrade, but definitely a very strong pick as well.
Number 1.
Check this out.
A pretty obvious choice for number 1 spot, and that is the Medic. Now, I probably don't even have to go into a deep origin story behind the Medic's original variant stage, but I'm just gonna go ahead and give a quick summarization. The Medic honestly was one of the worst towers in the game. Not completely terrible, since she did have that activation ability at max level where she cleansed every single tower in a pretty big radius from being stunned, and essentially healed your base's HP at the start of every single wave. However, with the added perk skill system tree thing, her entire kit was literally in the whole perks thing, so making her completely useless. And that's when TDS decided we needed to do something about her. And holy shit, it's like they brought in a completely brand new tower. The Medic now is unable to deal any damage to any enemies whatsoever, however is a complete support tower, kind of like the DJ himself. The Medic is able to choose up to 5 troops at max to be able to give a stun immunity shield for as long as you want, and you can change it to as many other troops as you want. And not only do they get a huge essential like stun immunity benefit, but they also get an activation ability benefit, as the Medic essentially enrages and increases the damage on all of these stun immune troops with the shield to 40%. for like 10 seconds, which is crazy. And of course, you can stack this with the DJ's damage track to 60%, but also that's just one medic. You can place up to 5 of these bad girls, and holy shit, you can have your entire army of very crucial troops, accelerators, engineers, G-minigunners being completely stun immune and have a breeze defeating every single boss in the game without any consequences whatsoever.